Hey everyone, this is Hailey from Cartooniverse. I'm going to be giving you a play-by-play of what happens in the new RWBY novel, After the Fall. For those that do not know, this book is 100% canon and follows the lives of Team Coffee after the fall of Beacon in Volume 3. A lot of interesting stuff goes down, and while I'm not going to cover all of it, I will talk about a good portion, plus my thoughts on everything. Overall, I really love the book, as it manages to expand on almost everything about Team Coffee, as well as improving on some things that occurred within the first 3 volumes. I highly suggest you go out and buy a copy of the book yourself. It was a real fun read. And of course this video will be spoiler heavy. If you want a slightly less spoilery video, check out my previous one where I talk about the team semblances. I mentioned them a bit in this video, but I go much more in depth here. And before we officially begin, I need to note that this book does a lot of things out of order. Or well, there's a lot of flashbacks to the time before the fall of Beacon. So I'm going to be jumping back and forth, so sorry if things are a bit confusing, I'm just following the book for the most part. I don't have every single thing covered in this video, especially some of the flashback chapters that didn't give us too much new information, so if you want to learn about everything from the book, you should definitely buy that. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's begin. Coffee starts out in Vacuo, a desert where only the toughest can survive. The landscape can completely change overnight or even within an hour. I should note that the book becomes a lot better when you understand the geography of Remnant pretty well. Vacuo is in the west, and Vale is on the same continent, but to the east. They traveled there by foot after helping with the cleanup from the fall of Beacon. So of course, the characters of Coffee, the main cast, is Coco Adele, Fox Alistar, Yatsu Daichi, and Velvet Scarlatina. And also, I'm going to be saying a lot of names in this video, so excuse me if I get anything wrong. Of course, it's a book, so I don't know how everything is pronounced. And it starts off by the team is fighting some mole crabs, which is really cool that we get to see some of the natural wildlife of Vacuo, which we don't see too much of in Vale or any other continent or any other place so far in Remnant. But they can get pretty big, these mole crabs, so they have a lot of fighting to do. And I guess it's fun to note that the people of Vacuo are not too into designer clothing, but Coco is, so she really makes an impression wherever she goes. And so we get a flashback of the fall of Beacon from Coffee's point of view. A few things are explained, like how Crow took RWBY home after she used her silver eye powers and kind of, fainted, I guess, because she blacked out after that. And we also get a mention of Jean and Pierre, and that makes me sad because, it kind of shows how everyone was worried for them, and we all know what happened after that. I will note that the book does a lot of inserting Team Coffee into instances where it's just super convenient for them to be, so we can have their point of view. And I mean, it's cool to see this, but at the same time, it's like, were they always next to RWBY? And even though in the show itself we never really saw that, it honestly reminds me of The Lion King 1.5, where Timon and Pumbaa were just at basically every major event in the first movie, but we didn't just see that until later in that movie. But honestly, Coffee being there makes more sense than Timon and Pumbaa being there in Lion King 1.5 when all those events happened anyway, so it's not too much of a big deal. It was just something I wanted to know. And so back to the team battling mole crabs. Velvet hears a voice, and she finds an old woman by the name of Slate. Another old woman character, definitely nothing like Maria at all. Not small or anything. Just kidding, she is small too, like Maria. We learned she was fleeing the Ghosten settlement after a Grimm invasion. She stayed in her wagon once it broke, and the rest of her friends left her there. So there are a lot of tribes or towns mentioned in this book, and a lot of the names have to do with minerals, such as Gaussen, which is a type of rock, and like I said before, I'll probably mispronounce some things. Sorry about that. So anyways, Shade Academy, where Coffee was now attending, got a distress call from Gaussen. Survivors from Gaussen were heading towards Feldspar, which is another town/mineral. So the team and Slate head towards Feldspar. When they arrive, they meet Slate's friend, Bast, which is short for Alabaster, who tells Coffee that Slate is their mayor, and that Slate sacrificed herself to save her people. Fox tells his team that most tribes and settlements in Vacuo don't have elected officials, and often they don't even like their leaders. So this means Slate is a rare instance where the people actually like the person that is leading them. All of them enter into a hut to eat, and once they do, order 2 huntsmen enter. Bertilac, who has a green mohawk and a goatee, and Carmine Escalados, who has scarlet hair and a pair of long sai on her belt. And I should mention that Coco is really into women, as you'll see here, as she is basically flirting with Carmine, and it's pretty awesome to see that, more of this, and there's definitely no questioning that Coco likes women, so if you weren't sure after the preview of the couple chapters, it's definitely in there later in the book if you weren't sure. So if you read that, you'll definitely notice that. Anyways, Bertilac is not happy Coffee is there, but Carmine is happy to have extra help. Slate tells the team that every few days people get worked up and fights start to break out. People get afraid and all the negative emotions bring Grimm, as we know. Tough, Schist, and Gaussen have all been attacked. We learn that the two Huntsmen are working for the Caspians, Edward and his grandson August. They're from Sumiron Vale, which is very far away if you remember the map I showed you a bit earlier, and soon an argument breaks out into the restaurant and the team wants to find the source. A flashback to landing practice for the team at Beacon happens, and Velvet was worried about who her partner would be for the next 4 years. She wanted to be Coco's partner because Coco is just so cool. But Coco becomes partners with Fox, and much to Velvet's dismay, she becomes partners with Yatsu. People from Mistral often hate Faunus, but Yatsu says he is nothing like them, and he's right. But eventually they become Team Coffee, and Fox first communicates with them telepathically. As I mentioned in my other video, that's part of his semblance. Back to the present, we learn that every time the wave of emotions comes to people, they get worse. We learn about a ton of cool Grimm in this book as well, which I absolutely love. For example, they mentioned they saw a Ravager, which is a meaner version of a Nevermore, but with bat wings. Coco realizes that the Caspians, Bertolac, and Carmine have been at the location of every Grimm attack. So the team goes to talk to them. They live by the wasting winds, which are forceful sandstorms from the north. And vacuums have names for other occurrences as well, which I just want to mention because it's so funny. So Misery's Kiss is sunstroke, Lasting Regret is food poisoning, and Sudden Demise is a sinkhole big enough to swallow settlements. So Yatsu and Velvet go to talk to the Caspians. August, who goes by the name Gus, answers the door and his grandfather joins a second later. Edward is 71, which is unusually old for a huntsman. Honestly, that's pretty disheartening to hear because that's not too old, but to be fair, with everything that happens in Vacuo, it's a miracle that people survive there at all. We learned that the Caspians met the two huntsmen when they were trying to reach safety. They suggested he should go to an old lighthouse on the western shore of Sanus, which is across the whole desert. Another Grimm attack breaks out, and the huntsmen deal with it. They decide to start patrolling the borders more. During the night patrol, Velvet and Fox see Edward sleepwalking. But of course, Grimm come and Fox almost dies battling a King Pagetu. Velvet and Fox bring Edward back to Feldspar, and Gus claims that his father is the one causing the mood bombs. In a flashback to when Team RWBY was first formed, we see Ruby talk to Coco, Weiss talks to Yatsu and Fox, and Blake protects Velvet from some bullies. There's a lot of good dialogue in this part, especially between RWBY and Coco. Also, we get a mention of Yang's friends from Signal, so I'm glad they were mentioned again in some shape after like episode 2 of the show. Anyways, Blake was reading the novel, The Boy Who Fell from the Sky, which is pretty interesting name because we know that Blake has been reading some books before that have some pretty good foreshadowing in them. So honestly, if you want to hear my theory about this, it's pretty dumb because I like this character a lot. But honestly, I think maybe it has something to do with Mercury because as we know, his allusion is to Mercury, who was known for flying. Also has some Icarus vibes in there, so maybe there'll be another character that has to do with Icarus more than Mercury, but we know his semblance was taken, so that's why maybe if his semblance had something to do with flight, he got taken from, thus fell from the sky. But that's just my guess, and usually these types of books have to do with Ozpin stuff like that, so not just characters like Mercury. But back to Gus, he reveals that he is able to block semblances with his semblance. He's been using his semblance to keep his grandfather's semblance in check. His grandfather can manipulate other people's emotions. And because his grandfather is getting old and his mind is not really working correctly anymore, so he's been having to block his semblance more than usual. So Bertolac and Carmine are angry and shocked to hear this, but Fox is suspicious of their reactions since it looks like they were acting. Everyone argues about what to do next, and Grimm arrive once again. We learn about Yatsu's backstory and his semblance to make people forget things. As a child, he made his mother forget about the existence of his little sister, and the fallout from that made him very afraid to ever use his semblance again. I honestly love this aspect of Yatsu, and it makes sense why he wouldn't use it, but I think he has such a cool semblance, and, you know, it doesn't really seem like it'd be something he would have, but I love surprises like this, so this is really cool to see and learn about. And so back to the story now, the team decides to head west to get to Vacuo. More Grimm attack, including a few cool ones like the Dromedon, which is a camel-like Grimm with humps that expand like a balloon and burst, a Jackalope, which is a huge four-legged beast with branching red and white antlers and powerful hind legs that can propel it to a great height and allow it to run fast, and a Giraffe, which is like a giraffe, but 5 stories high and has string-long heads, glowing red leopard spots, white horns, and a long dark tongue that can wrap around a person's body. I found this piece of fan art that looks almost exactly like the Giraffe, but was made in 2015, so somebody seems to have pretty good prediction skills. And we also learned that it's very rude to use any sort of animal puns, jokes, or phrases when referring to Faunus. Even saying the phrase catnap to a cat Faunus is inappropriate. So Velvet and the evacuees leave first, and later the rest of Coffee follows. Coco notices a set of tracks going north, and Fox decides to follow them. Yatsu and Coco catch up with Velvet and everyone else. Those tracks Fox was following were created by Edward and Bertilac. Fox finds Edward in the sandstorm, who is disoriented and fights Fox. Fox disarms the old man, which makes him come to his senses. Edward wants to get back to Gus because it turns out Gus was the one amplifying people's emotions, and Edward can block his semblance. After Gus's parents died, the moon bombs became worse. Right as they go to leave, Bertilac attacks Fox. In a flashback to their time as Beacon students, Coffee was on a training mission to find the survivors of Lower Cairn and bring them back to Vale. But when they got to the town, it was gone. Walking along a mountain path, they find a crevice with voices calling out from within it. People are trapped underground, and they're the last survivors of Lower Cairn. But it was all for nothing when a Goliath appeared and crushed the cave entrance with the people inside it. Coffee had failed their mission. And holy crap, I cannot believe this happened. Like, learning about Yatsu's backstory was crazy enough, but this is almost a whole nother level. It was directly acknowledged that Team Coffee led to the death of a group of people. This book as a whole does an amazing job at making sure the impacts of events, such as this training mission or the fall of Beacon, is felt. Back to the desert, the team besides Fox, who is currently fighting Bertilac, sees this huge plateau-looking object. It turns out to be a flatback slider, which is a huge sand turtle that is extremely rare. Since it is 100 feet tall, they decide to get to the top of the turtle so it can take them away from the sandstorm. While getting everyone away from the turtle, a blind worm approaches. It is a long, black, spiky worm with a fiery red eye in the center of its head. Its circular mouth contains razor-sharp teeth. It is a length of 6 Goliaths. If they don't include this Grimm whenever Team RWBY goes to Vacuo, it'll be a real shame. Although I personally want to see the giraffe more because I really want to see a 3-headed giraffe. Fox fights Bertilac, whose weapon is a spiky ball mace with a chain. Bertilac reveals that his boss is interested in people with powerful semblances and collects them, but since Edward doesn't have the mood bomb semblance, they got the wrong guy. They want to get the Caspians away from other people, but never got the chance. Bertilac's semblance is revealed to be heat waves, which was amplified when he gets angry. Fox eventually beats Bertilac with the help of Edward. Edward reveals that he was the one to send the distress call to Shade. Returning to a flashback, the team returns to Beacon. Glinda asks to see Velvet in Ozpin's office, but walking there, Sun and Neptune appear, but have to leave because Glinda does not want to wait. The rest of Team Coffee notices Velvet is gone and go and find her. Oz and Glinda are not happy about them storming into his office, but they let them go by giving them an assignment to do. Back to the present with the blind worm, Fox and Edward message the team and reveal the truth, but Carmine already has Gus, so they need to find them. They spot a sandstorm which seems to be controlled by Carmine, and Yatsu goes after them. Yatsu meets up with Fox, who has been carrying Bertilac. Yatsu uses a semblance to temporarily erase Bertilac's memory of the past day. And then Yatsu attacks Carmine, whose semblance turns out to be telekinesis. However, she isn't as powerful as Glinda, and that's important. Returning to the people on the turtle, the worm is almost to them. Velvet uses a photo of Roy Stallion's saw gloves and turns it into a weapon. This was her last photo of him, as he was presumed to have been killed at the Battle of Beacon, as he was taken away by Nevermore. And the rest of his team, Bronze, was either missing or dead, so we did get confirmation of this, which is really sad to hear because I was hoping they were alive, but seems like that's not the case. Back to the worm. Any damage that it takes releases acid, making them even more dangerous. Velvet makes Neptune's weapon, which is called a railgun. After some fighting, the worm rushes up to the side of the turtle and swallows Coco, but with the help of Velvet, who kills the worm, Coco is able to escape. Further away, Carmine is battling both Edward and Bertilac, who lost his memory and thinks Carmine is trying to double-cross him and takes Gus for herself. When sand is splashed at Bertilac, his heat wave semblance turns it into glass, which I think is pretty cool, so I want to note that. Together, Coffee beats Carmine. When the team catches up to Slayton and the refugees, they learn that they would have been goners had Team Sun not come and saved them. Sun is also going to be at Shade, and later both teams will be able to go home. Velvet says goodbye to Gus, who's going to Zakuro. Gus hopes to learn to control his semblance, and eventually will help people with it. She takes a picture of Edward with his weapon. Then the two teams head off for Shade, and Coco wonders about the person kidnapping people with powerful semblances. And from there, the book ends. And I loved it. So I'm going to give you my final thoughts before I end this video. And like I said, I really enjoyed it. It fleshes out Team Coffee more than I ever could have imagined. We also get to see a lot of Team RWBY and a bit of Team Sun, which I was not expecting at all. The book really convinces you that Team Coffee had a good relationship with other teams, and they were that one special team like RWBY was that you're following them. I love the idea of someone that is collecting people with powerful semblances. I'm sure that's been done in shows a lot before, but I still find it interesting nonetheless. But to be honest, I'm pretty disappointed by the lack of Velvet backstory. And we didn't learn too much about Coco either, except for this one part where we learn about her as a kid and her fear of being in enclosed spaces. But anyways, this is a good setup for a follow-up novel, which I'm pretty sure is happening. I really want to learn more about Team Sun, and especially about Scarlet and Sage. I'm sure there's a lot I missed, but this is an almost 300-page novel, so there was a lot I just didn't bother to write down. Once again, I really suggest you get a copy of the book. They should definitely release an audiobook version, mostly because I want to hear what Fox sounds like. If you enjoyed this and my other RWBY videos, please subscribe to my channel to get notified for more. And if you want to go the extra mile, you can support us on Patreon. I'll add your name to the description of my videos if you pledge at the $3 or above tier level. I also put sneak peeks of future videos on there, so if you want to know what RWBY theory I'm covering next, this is the best place to look. Well, that was a lot to cover, but I hope you learned a thing or two about the novel. Thank you for watching, and have an animated day.